Hi everyone. So welcome to today's webinar with Unovino. I'm Ellie. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Birchal. And just before I introduce Adam, John, and Mike, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm coming to you from today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people from the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Today, I'm joined with Adam, John, and Mike from Unovino. Birchal is working with Unovino on an upcoming crowdsourced funding offer. So what is crowdsourced funding, or CSF? Crowdsourced funding, or you may know it as equity crowdfunding, is a relatively new form of fundraising in Australia that allows startups and small businesses to raise capital from a large number of smaller or retail investors and wholesale or sophisticated investors through an online platform, which is Birchal. Instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists, companies can turn to the general public, often from their communities, to raise money in exchange for equity in their business. Birchal is a financial services that will be the licensed intermediary for the offer. The information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes and should not be considered as advice or recommendation to invest. Please do your own research and always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing. And more information on all of this can be found on our website at birchal.com. Now, how today's session is going to run, Adam and the team are going to take us through a great presentation, which will approximately be about 15 to 25 minutes, all about Unovino, where they come from, what they're looking to do with their capital raise. We will then switch to a Q&A session. So if you look to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a little Q&A bubble. If you have any questions during today's session, please pop it in the Q&A box as we go along, and we'll make sure we answer these during the Q&A time at the end. We are recording today's session, so if you do have to jump off early, a recording will be sent round to everybody. So without further ado, I will hand over to Adam, John, and Mike.
Thanks, Ellie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Adam Catt. I'm from Unovino. I'm the Managing Director here and also the Chief Operating Officer at Think Creative and Unovino. So I'll talk to you a bit more about myself in a second. I want to take you through some of the new stuff that I'm sure everyone wants to see straight up first, which is some of our investor rewards that we've got planned. Obviously, with different levels, different things will be available. But we've got some amazing wines, some amazing merch, and also the more that people that are investing, the more we want to get you involved with this company and to help with our wine calendar and the direction around our wines and the wineries we're trying to feature. So it's a really exciting way to actually be part of the community and also taste some of the amazing wines we have on offer. So I want to hand over to John, who's from Showblock Wines, the CEO, and also one of the founding investors from the winery side in Unovino, to talk a bit about himself and also these wines, and we'll continue from there.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, hi everyone. Look, Showblock Wines is a small boutique producer like many others in Australia, and one of the biggest problems these producers have is they focus on making such really good wine, but they don't have the marketing budget to get it to market. So there's a lot of really good wine out there that people aren't aware of. So that's one of the purposes of Unovino is to bring these wines to you so you can appreciate what the depth of the Australian wine industry and a lot of small players who you've never heard of who make great wine. With this investor reward offer, we're bringing you some wines that some wines you just can't get anywhere. We've got highly awarded premium Grenache, GSM, Shiraz, Cabernet, in these packs, and like I said, it's hard to put a value to them because, for example, the 2012 Cabernet is a wine we made that I kept for myself selfishly, but I'm prepared to share it with people just to show you. Here's some little hidden treasures that you didn't know about that we've been holding out, but we're not going to hold out any longer. So we would try and make it, give you a story as well behind the wine, and give you that full appreciation experience is what we're after.
That's it. And so John's come on board as an investor as well as one of the wine producers. We do so much work with John, obviously, with his own product, but it's a great example of the kind of wines that you're going to see on the platform, and we're trying to build around. And obviously, it's going to be great to have them as rewards for investors who come into Unovino. So when we look at the team, who's behind all this, I'll pass it over to Mike shortly, but just a bit about myself first. I've joined about nearly 12 months ago, but I've known about Unovino and what Mike and the team were trying to do for quite some time. I'm a very passionate wine lover myself, and I've spent a lot of time working with businesses such as Virgin, millions of customers on our database, helping them to scale that business and do different things with subscription marketing and email marketing. Westfield, dealing with large assets and dollars per square meter. I certainly know what it feels like and looks like to be running fairly large operational businesses with Westfield. Northern Territory Tourism, I was in that space there, dealing with 1,200 different operators there. Had a budget of $30 to $40 million, 80 staff. We're trying to get people to actually turn up to the doorstep of a little place in Tennant Creek or a little place in the middle of Kakadu and actually make a difference to communities. And so I'm really passionate about that sort of stuff. And just recently working with a company called Foods, who did actually list and was bought out by HelloFresh. But ultimately what I saw there was growth in e-commerce. We had nearly $150 million in sales. We had millions of customers, 3,500 outlets. And so, when we look at what we're trying to do with Unovino, it has a similar kind of feel to where Foods went. And I think I can bring some of that great experience in. So I'll hand over to Mike to talk a bit more about the founding story and where he's come from and what we're trying to do to go forward.
Hello, I'm Mike. I'll just start by saying John's being a little bit, what's the word for it? He should have told you that his old wine Grenache just got rated 95 points. So he's being a little bit coy on that. His wines are amazing, and the offers that we put forward, I think, are incredible. So thanks, John. In terms of my background, the reason why Unovino came to life, if we just take a step back, I've been in technology for 40 years. As part of that journey, I started at Channel 7, where I was a broadcast engineer. I moved into the computer industry when the original 8088 computers came to life, because I could see the dramatic growth that was going to happen in that world. Over about 7-8 years in that space, I helped a company called Logical Technologies grow from 6 staff to 90. I took over the sales and marketing capacity of that business at that point in time, and that was my first foray into sales. In 1997, I started a business called IntraPower. That business listed on the Australian stock market, the ASX, in 2005. So that was a really nice journey to go through. And on exiting that business, I started another company called Expedia, and Expedia is the holding company which owns Vin Creative. Vin Creative was founded because we were invited by the Australian Wine Industry Suppliers Association to build a solution for the Australian wineries. There was international solutions available in Australia, but there was no local solution that was ticking all the boxes. Being invited in by a gentleman called Matt Moat, who was the CEO at the time, we started on a journey in 2018 to build what is now recognised as being one of the 3 best wine solutions on the planet. We'll see that business continue to scale. We've got 150 wineries or more than that now on our platform, and we'll see that business continue to scale and go international over the next couple of years. Why did we start Unovino? We started Unovino because when we were talking to our initial clients, winery clients, those producers informed us that they struggled. As John said, they didn't have the marketing resources available to them. And there's a number of reasons for that. Primarily, there's not enough great resources in the regional communities to support these businesses. There's not enough housing even to support these people if they wanted to move to those locations. So generally, wineries struggle to find amazing resources. We know that there's incredible wine out there, but it's wine that doesn't get distributed through the Dan Murphys of this world, or maybe the duopoly of Coles and Woolies. The reason it doesn't get distributed is because the margins that are offered by those distributors is so low that it's just not feasible for the producers like John, who make all of his wine basket pressed, handmade, incredible wine, made like his father used to make 25, 30 years ago. And there's so many stories like that in the industry. So yes, we started being creative and launched then the Unovino strategy about 3.5 years ago. as a way of bringing all of these beautiful boutique wineries together, and as a collaborative to have enough power and strength to compete on the Australian wine scene and help them get a distribution channel, so they can take those wines and take the cellar door to the people rather than trying to invite all the people down to the cellar door. We find that to be a way more scalable strategy for the small producers.
That's great, Mike. I think, and that's really the benefit that we see at Unovino, is that we've got access to a system which we know is connected to these operators, and we don't have to do all that work that's already been done over the last 6 years. And so when we look at why that's a really important part of this business, is that it does give us a lower cost on-demand support when we need it. So the Unovino board exists. We've got 3 people on there on the call today. We've got 2 more spots to fill to make sure we've got good balanced voting rights. And then we've got myself working in the Unovino general management side. I'm sitting here working in a sweat equity capacity. It's really important for me to deliver what I've got to deliver over the next 12 months. And we've had a change where there used to be people working inside of Unovino as a general manager and a marketing team. And that wasn't an effective strategy. It was just probably a bit early for where the learnings were. And I'm going to take you through some of those learnings so you can see where we've been and why we want to be able to do things into the future. But I would definitely expect that rather than just using all of InCreative's support services now, which keeps our costs nice and low, that we will start to build a team in and around myself over time. So as Mike was sort of saying, the feedback ultimately was that the $40 billion wine economy, that's including jobs and all the different things that go into it, is ultimately big retailer dominated, and we could see that low margins and the volumes needed to be so high. So it didn't really allow a lot of the smaller operators to work in that space. However, the fragmented restaurant and cafe system certainly looked like an opportunity for us. So that side of the market wasn't really talking to the smaller side of the market with the multiple winemakers that are out there. So Unovino was ultimately born with technology to empower both sides of the market. We certainly believe in technology first, ways to solve things, and then how we wrap things around that. The insight that we found when we looked at different reports that are out there is that ultimately that 65% of all sales were coming through, the off-trade, so the retail space. There was definitely a really good opportunity to take on the on-trade space, which is the restaurants. There's about 50,000 restaurants and cafes and bars that are part of that mix. What's interesting about that, that's 20% of the wine market, and a significant share of imported wine actually gets sold through those on-trade spaces. So from our point of view, we felt there was a great spot to be able to place small independent wineries to compete against what might be a international import, and give them the best, sparkling we've got here, or one of the best Chardonnays we've got here, and get those things in place of what you might be seeing in the trade currently, and get them matched better as well. We needed to really have a way that we could allow multiple operators to come together, producers to come together to actually compete in the retail market. So that was a really important part to try and disrupt what was happening. And certainly there's been a trend towards independent style retailers, people looking for more new and different wines. How do we make that more available to the market through Unovino? And lastly, I think one of the key insights is content. We know that people can get wine anywhere. It's not like you can't walk down the shops and find it. We had to be better than the bottle shops to really tap into the market share that's available there and actually start talking to customers about the things that they wanted. Rather than giving them choice, we need to give them curation and actually show them the one thing that they need, and then how do we get them to explore from there. So that's where Unovino really finds its name, and we think these are really important insights to take forward. So what's been done, what's already been created from the capital we've already raised previously, we've actually gone and built the fully integrated Unovino marketplace platform. It's directly connected into the into the wineries that are available through Being Creative. And there's hundreds of wineries there for us to work with. And ultimately, onboarding a new winery can take between 4 to 8 hours, depending on how organized we are. But ultimately, the connection to go and find these wineries and have them connected into Unovino is built. That whole system works. And what we've been doing in the last 6 to 8 months or so is starting to test the market out. What does the dropship website look like? How does it work? What the conversion rates are? Are the wine bars and restaurants looking to get involved, and how can they get involved? What can we do more with them? But right now, the system works, and that is not something you need to invest further into necessarily right now. It's into how do we go into take these to market, and that's our core goal. We take a 25% sales commission on the sales that we see coming through the platform, both at a wholesale or retail level, and there's opportunities for us to take marketing fees and group promotions and things like that, which we haven't activated yet. We've been solely focused on working with wineries, getting them on board, and helping them to put sales through the process and work out what we can do to improve that. So as I said, 20 wineries, fully contracted, fully integrated drop shipping. And I'll talk a bit about how that works, but some great wineries all across Australia. We've got a calendar of wine promotions that we do month in, month out to try and cycle around and get different wineries involved. The website's been updated. You can choose from hundreds of different wines on there. You can basically get 6 of different types of wines for one winery and have them delivered for free around Australia, which is amazing. You can take our 6-pack offers that we do as well. The wineries are making the prices. It's not up to Unovino to make the price. It truly is a marketplace, and we get to curate that and help that be promoted. So it's a really great way, and it's really made for the wineries, ultimately by the wineries, if with John involved, and we have a really close relationship with everyone who's on the platform. Our wine club is built and is now working, and we see really great flexibility there to offer things like pause, skip, cancel anytime you want, all self-managed. So there's not a lot of effort for us to go and help the customer if they don't need it. We can mix and match multiple wineries into these discovery clubs. We can do DIY clubs where if you just want that sparkling on repeat or that Shiraz on repeat, you can have it every month. The system's set up to do that really easily. And that's one of the core benefits of using the Vin Creative platform that already has these things existing. And we know that work really well. But why is our system a bit different? I mean, isn't it just like another company that does e-commerce and sells wines in one spot? Well, it is a little bit different, and it's important from a scalability point of view. We have 100% integration into the business as usual pick and pack system that the wineries on Vin Creative are using now. So when they get an order from Unovino or from a restaurant or a bar or wherever it might be, it all flows into their normal system. It's not like they have to go and load up a different thing, wait for an email to come in and tell them they have to do something. It's right there in their day-to-day experience that they have. And it connects back into their accounting systems where they're using that, and obviously delivery systems. So we're not held back by having wineries not able to handle scale outside their normal business operations. It just means less errors, misses, and happier customers.
Yep.
We also have an instant payment and inventory gets updated. So that's a really important part to it, because wineries who are otherwise chasing for funds and waiting for distributors to get back to them, or waiting for a retailer to get back to them, or a restaurant or whatever it might be, it doesn't help them to go and actually run their operations smoothly. And it just means that they are more aware of what they're getting in terms of sales day to day. It means we can get more deals and typically have rarer products on offer because the winery knows what they're putting out there and where it's going to go to. They can clearly see where it's going. So it's a really important part of the system in what we do. I think the other really, really important part is it's software as a service that we've got here. So it's one application where if the community gives feedback from the program, or we get great feedback from shareholders, we want to change something, it doesn't just change for one winery, it changes for all of them that are on our platform. And that's a really important part, which means that we can quickly go to market with an update or an improvement. And it just means that we're going to have a much stronger scalable system into the future. So when we look at our sales, and this is a really interesting story, myself joining somewhere in around this sort of January mark last year, really great growth to start off with. We were starting to pump a lot of customers through it. We had a lot of new wineries that were actually using and jumping on board and blasting out to their customers to come and check out their products online. And the sales, and this little line here is our visits to the actual website. And you can sort of see the growth, cumulative growth over time. So what we wanted to show here really is that we've seen growth through the platform. We can talk about conversion rates in a second. But when we started to think about, well, what else are we trying to do and how we actually manage the costs on this, we found that we had too many people basically employed at this point in time. We're getting early learnings off the back of the revenue that was coming in. So, ultimately we sort of changed our team structure here, became more cost efficient. You saw less emails going out, but some of the things that we were actually doing was we were trying to push up the AOV and push up higher products, more premium products, rather than sub $30 bottles of wine. And we did see conversion rates and sales drop to a degree. It's not to say that we can't push those types of things. We just have to have the right cost structure to go with it. And that's why we made the change to using more Vin Creative services rather than having an in-house team at that point. We've just come back recently with a changed approach, an updated site, updated marketing partners as well. We're now getting access to nearly 300,000 more people that we can tell about the wines and seeing more traffic come through, and the sales have kicked off again. So it's clear that when we're out there in market talking about things, sales come in. When we're not and trying to do things a little bit too bespoke, we don't get the sales. So we just want to be open and honest with the way we've highlighted these things here, because we believe that the shareholders are going to have some really great insights as well for how we can continue to improve the results. When we look at our conversion rates, what's really encouraging is that we're seeing between 2 and 6% across all of our AU visitors to the site. So the lines here are our conversion rate here, and then the blocks are the average order value that we're seeing going through month to month. So, really nice data to look at in that we can see conversion rates relatively high at nearly 6%, which is well above market average. When we've got AOVs around the $200 mark, when we're starting to push it a bit higher and try different things and not have as many emails that going out as well, we saw our conversion rate start to drop a little bit, still above 2%, but which is important. And even of late, with a lot more traffic coming in, we've seen some sales growth and some good AOVs, but ultimately the conversion rate's a bit lower, mainly because we've just got so much more traffic. But what we have seen at least is people who are viewing product are still converting at about 7% all the way through to sale. So if they go through the website and not just bounce off the homepage, but actually go through and view some product, they are converting at about 7%. That's really important because ultimately in a paid growth strategy, when you're paying for marketing at that current rate, that allows us to scale, on the commissions that we're taking. So I'm feeling very confident about taking this forward to markets like Facebook and other things like this, where we can actually push beyond just emails. What's another really great thing that we're seeing is strong repeat rates. So we're sitting at, for people who have ordered more than twice over the last 2 years, and certainly when we go into the data, we're looking at people ordering every month as well. We're sitting at about 25, 26%, but 21% definitely 2 or more, which is definitely in line with industry averages. In fact, it's up there with some of the best e-commerce wine sites in the world. So we are seeing people come back. They're not bleeding off and going direct necessarily, like direct. They're kind of coming through us. And that's really encouraging because we give them an offer which lets them see different wineries all in one checkout. So another important thing that allows us to have that recurring revenue scaling long term. In terms of where we're getting our sales from, mostly coming out of Queensland, which probably is to be expected, where there's less wineries and less ability to get access to certain wines potentially at your doorstep. But otherwise, Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia are still strong. WA, to a degree, probably limited because of the nature of the people on our website. So if we can get more wineries from different regions, we expect to see even more sales coming from those regions as well. Our spend per age group, what you can see here is our customers clearly sitting in the 46, 55, 65 plus mark, probably in line with, well, it is certainly in line with market averages. What we absolutely see here is an opportunity to fill the gap with our remote cellar door strategy, where younger customers aren't probably as likely to have visited a winery in their lifetime at that point in time. So how can we get that cellar door to them? And that's where the remote cellar door play is really important for us to actually fill that gap and help younger people get into the independent wine market and start to get their favorites when they're 55, 60, they absolutely know that what they love and they're wedded to our system and what we're trying to do. So speaking of remote cellar doors, it's a new concept. It kind of is out there. If you think about a wine dinner, you might go to a restaurant or a bar and they offer a wine dinner where the winery or the winemaker is turning up, have a chat, and take you through the wines. That happens very irregularly. We're trying to put that always on. So our system is all about offering, certain wines per month, plus the full back catalogue of Unovino to restaurants and bars. But those wines per month are going to be promoted and pushed, and winemaker content that comes with it. So you can see there's little three wine flight kind of experiences here with QR codes all over them, a bit of a wine description. We've got QR codes linked to videos, so you can actually hear what the winemaker's talking about. It really comes down to how engaged the wine bar is at pushing this sort of stuff. But what we've seen is about 10% uptake of the wines we were pushing, including the wine flights. QR codes were relatively limited in terms of the outcomes that we saw from that. People were kind of there for a drink, not there for a wine dinner. When we've invited to wine dinner, a much better uptake. So ultimately what we're trying to do now is move away from QR codes, but more so into the direct POS opportunity. So a customer who loves the wine goes up to the counter, pays for their food and their normal drinks, but can also get another 6 delivered straight from the winery through our POS system there at the point of sale, where they just place the order themselves through a simple kind of code and text process. So it's really about connecting the two worlds together. And this is really a new model where we want to see hundreds of wine bars doing this, pouring Unovino wines and us promoting that to go and visit and try new things by the glass. And then you'll be more likely to have that 6 or 12 delivered after, and giving a variety month in, month out of different regions to explore and supporting the wine bars that want to support independent wineries. Our affiliate marketing partner growth has been really, really good. What we've just seen is it starts at 60 guys. We've got 300,000 people that sort of hit their site every month or so and have on their database. I've actually just now white labeled or have a powered by Unovino wine club solution, which is using our solution and our independent wineries to help their customers who are absolutely in the right demographic start to pick and choose wines and get used to shopping independent wines. They're doing great content with us. You can see John and Saray there talking about their wines, and we have different wineries that are being promoted every month. So again, getting into the stories of independent wineries, helping to promote that, and that's absolutely this investment is going to be going into. Same with our partners at Gather, who do a catering product for in-home dining, with our pouring partner here, where you can actually then we can help you get matched with the wines that are on our system into your private dining experiences. And there's many hundreds of these dining experiences happening all the time. What we are finding with this partnership is that we need to kind of get a bit more closer connection at the right time, because they're usually booking these things a long time in advance. We've got some new opportunities with entertainment, which have been signed, and we're just rolling out now. Again, with investor support, we can do more of these. Our content, absolutely ready to evolve. We've already started to do that. New brand, new look and feel. We've got Alana Lowe's, who's ex-master chef and a fantastic Channel 7 food presenter, making us look good. And ultimately, someone who can really bring a direction around this, both food and wine, and is set to really help us do things that aren't being done in the market currently. We want to be able to use more data to help you find your winners. I mean, off the back of Melbourne Cup yesterday, we would love to see these types of things happening through our own content and put out there, where we can actually highlight what wine is right for you based off certain metrics, wine awards, things that you like or whatever. But it's about finding winners as far as we're concerned, and helping you to do that by tasting it at remote cellar doors or giving you the right content to help you do it. So you can sort of see where we've come from in relation to our activities and the numbers and the technology that's been built. In terms of the finance, and we'll obviously provide full financials in the offer document, which will come out when the investment is open. But we're at ASIC status, so we're at early stage innovation company status, which has some benefits. You can look them up yourself in relation to your investments, depending on your own situation. Of course, we recommend you do that research yourself. We've got R&D offsets have already been gained, so we absolutely are a technology company. We are building things that are new and different, and therefore has a opportunity for us to get those offsets and have a business benefit from that. Of the capital that we've already deployed, the development's been done with that. So again, we're not looking to go and spend on more dev. We're looking to go to market. This money is about output, and the sales and conversion rate has already, the learnings have already been gained. We don't need to learn anymore. It's about getting out and actually scaling. We've got the ability to keep costs lower. If we need to sort of, go a bit dark and try something different for a month or so, we don't need to keep on spending on salary. So that's the benefit of having been creative versus the burn from employees, as we're still quite early in our growth. And we absolutely are dedicated to a positive unit metric strategy, which means that we want to only do things where we know the cost will be lower than the return that we're getting from profit. I'm so focused on that from my previous life, it's not funny. But yeah, the new capital is geared to scaling revenue generating activities rather than more business dev where we don't need to. It's where some of that sweat equity is really benefit to using that for learning new things versus the investor funds for going to market and generating revenue. So the metrics that we'll be absolutely reporting on and looking at internally will be how do we get low cost per acquisitions, a low CAC through partnerships and high converting content, and using the wineries to promote to their databases as well. Obviously, repeat and club members are super important for us. We'll have a focus on that and continue to build core strength around automation. We use Klaviyo internally at the moment for this. And obviously our 5-star service and referrals will be important to keep that customer coming back. The multiple distribution points, we'll be looking at how many wine bars we're bringing on board, how much they're pouring inside those wine bars, what's our percentage of share. Very, very data focused from my point of view, to make sure we're not missing any of the metrics. Strong systems and training will be really important for these distribution points, because we know that the restaurants and bars are very busy. Even our trial restaurant is extremely busy. But how can we make sure that's going to work for the staff that are using these systems? And there is international scalability, obviously, into the long term. The higher margins will be another really important part to our formula for success, where we can add service fees where it's relevant, that's going to be beneficial, and potentially our own branded product, still using independent wines and wineries, but ways that we can get them to have a diffusion label and actually talk to what the community might want, or something that's a little bit different to what's in the standard labels. So we think that's a really great way, once we have better distribution, to actually have some of our higher margin product going out there, along with the potential for our own outlets where we see fit. So it kind of gives you a sneak preview of what we're raising for anyway, but ultimately from a base growth or accelerated level, we don't have those levels in yet. They'll be part of the offer document. It's very clear what we're trying to do: maximize sales, expand restaurants and winery and the remote cellar door program, and expand our marketing reach. It's a go-to-market strategy with a little bit of a twist with our remote cellar door competitive edge. And there's things to do there around systems costs, new wineries being onboarded, new wine bars. There's some costs to do that. We think we need some kind of dedicated e-com support into the future beyond what we're doing with Being Creative. So all that kind of work is really output focused. As we move into broader stuff, we're looking at more data-driven automation and potentially more business development support for wine bar growth. We know that will be a lot of work to bring on 50, 100, or whatever the number might be, wine bars. Even 1 or 2 is hard. But so ultimately, how can we do that? We might need some people for that and some time for that. We definitely would like to look at independent wine awards type approach here from our marketing, where we'd like to see some funds going towards new and different ways to bring independent wines to the fore and invite people to go to these bars and restaurants into our website and actually taste new and different things and give us some ratings on from their point of view. So there's some of the things that we're looking to invest, take the money that would be from an investment point of view into market, which is really exciting. Look, the things that we've heard from discussions already that we've had in this last 2 or 3 weeks with the Birchal raise, and this is why we want to do it through Birchal. For us, it's a real community-focused approach. And so how do you deal with customers who are going to go direct or restaurants who go direct rather than using Unovino? Well, ultimately, we're pretty sticky. It's just one spot you can do everything. The restaurant doesn't have to deal with multiple wineries. The wineries don't have to deal with multiple restaurants. It's a great place to use the marketplace platform, and it's certainly cost-effective. We'll have monthly promotions to help people stay on, and we're already seeing great repeat from customers, so we're pretty confident we're going to be good there. From a liquor licensing point of view, we'll obviously review that every year. It is obviously a risk that things can change, but we don't see any restrictions currently on the process that we're running, and we've been doing it for a couple of years. Being Creative obviously is a reliance on Being Creative for the platform that we're using. What it's also giving us is a massive runway of hundreds more of wineries and any other growth that the team gets there. So we're actually feel like we're empowered through that process rather than limited, certainly into the short and medium term. And there's nothing stopping us ultimately building out connections to other platforms into the future, where wineries might be using a non-Being Creative platform to do their sales and whatever else they're doing in inventory control. So we do see that Unovino filling that gap into the long run, where we can almost be a middleware for opportunities like that. But that's a risk that we've obviously got to consider. But it's not on the plan right now to go beyond the Being Creative platform, because there's just so much for us to go and do there in the first place. In terms of data, obviously, where we've got all of our data stored in Australian kind of redundancy backed up places and spaces. So we feel like we've got all the right mechanisms to make sure our data is being stored, and we're using similar or the same systems to what Being Creative's used for many years. So confident on that level. We're doing all the normal things you would do around consent for marketing and making sure that customers aren't being sent things they shouldn't be sent. From a vertical point of view, like other markets and other things we can try and do, people have asked us what else can we do with the platform. It can kind of be adapted to anything. It's certainly geared to wine, but if there was coffee or distilleries or any other kind of subscription type of product, we absolutely can move into that space. But right now, obviously, our focus is on wine, and there's plenty to go and do in that space, and it's a very, very large market for us to go and attack. So we feel like our battlegrounds are well and truly drawn out there. And as you can see, this is the type of communication we'd love to be sending out to investors. And that's common questions. What do we put out there? I would like to see us doing monthly broad updates to the community with necessary communications beyond that. So that's the wrap. Ultimately, it's more wineries, as you can see at the top here, improve our marketplace conversion and content, and really go to market with these invested funds and build the community around this. It's so important to us when you meet the wineries and you get involved and you meet the winemakers and the people that are doing it tough up here as such. And then we get to see that the same thing's happening down here in the trade space, where people are looking for new and different things to actually excite customers to come in and try and buy and come back. We feel like Unovino is going to be a great platform to do that. And that's obviously what we're looking for investment in. So thank you. And I'll hand back to Ellie to bring up some of the questions.
Hi, so thanks so much. That was such an insightful presentation into the background of the business. All the detail was great and super clear. So I'm excited to get stuck into the question part of the webinar. If you haven't already, please pop any questions you've got into the Q&A box. I'm just going to pull this across and read out one of the questions. So how will you differentiate yourself versus local and specialized wine shops, for example, Wine Emporium or websites like Different Drop, Vino Mofo, and raise brand awareness? Who ultimately owns the client data if wineries are also sending their direct comms?
Yeah. So obviously there's plenty of places you can go and buy wine from, and all different, and some of the wine might be on those websites as well to a degree. The big thing for us is, and the investable component from us is, we don't want to build another e-commerce website. That's not what we're about. We want to find a model which actually distributes all the way from the maker to the market, and they have that control over that space as well. So the wine bars, compared to a wine emporium or a smaller retailer, it gives the opportunity to taste in as you see fit, not what they've got on this week. The more wines we have in those wine bars from Unovino, the more chance that customers can actually taste different things that are in our platform and go back and buy it. Obviously, that customer data as such is made available to the winery when they go and actually sign them up, or they have a purchase. But ultimately, when they're purchasing through Unovino, and they've got to consent to the different things that they want to have happen. But the winery themselves can talk to that customer direct, and that's fine. But the benefit for Unovino is that you get multiple other ways that you can actually shop, multiple other ways to go into different wineries in one checkout. And so it's really about convenience and about better content to help people make decisions across a breadth of wineries, not just what's on offer today in that one place, or one winery that you may not want to have in your rotation every single week. So we're about trying to give people choice and a better rotation, and in a way that they can actually feel really closely connected to the winery as much as we possibly can.
Can I just add one point to that? As part of looking at marketplace dynamics, what we have done is we've looked at the supply dynamics as well as the demand dynamics. And when you start to look at people like the Vinomofo is a good example, great business, done an incredible job to scale their business. As they've grown, and most marketplaces, if not all, have done the same, they become very, very focused around incredibly large distribution centers. The challenge with that is that it means they no longer pick and pack a box. You can't have a 6-pack of diverse wines. You'll take the 6-pack that they deliver to you. By us having a drop ship model, and we take advantage of the existing resources that are already sitting there available at John's Showblock Winery or any one of another 100-odd wineries that we have on the integrated platform, we can actually then deliver this diverse opportunity. They can buy 6 wines, all of them can be different, they'll be picked and packed by John's team, they'll be delivered straight to your door. That's something you're just not getting through other channels.
Awesome. If you want to send any follow-ups to that question, who asked the question, please feel free. John, did you want to add anything to that, or shall I move on to the next question?
Look, I just want to add in really our strategy of vertical integration in the industry. So we're obviously starting off at quite one-dimensional with the online service at the moment, but with the addition of wine bars and higher margins through own branding and relationships with growers direct as well, who are finding it pretty hard. We want to be a company that is well and truly vertically integrated and supports people on all layers.
I think on top of that, we can't speculate too much because we've got what we've done, right? But ultimately, when we take a step forward, we see different things of potential opportunities. And we ultimately are trying to build a platform that can support the wineries do what they need to do into the marketplace. That would be relatively light touch from our side. Where there's opportunities to work with distributors or work with independent, even retailers that want to do things with our distribution system and with our retailers in a different way, we're completely open to that. We're about complementing as much as we are about competing. And I think that's a really interesting competitive edge for us, because we can find ways forward in ways that otherwise you may not be able to. And I think that's what we're looking to try and do is there's some great opportunities to take what's happened in travel around how they're now managing stock across thousands and thousands of room nights. And what can we do with wine? What can we do with wine in a way where people can get access to what they need to, whether it be shots, bottles, creative, you name it. And again, it's a step beyond what's possible right now. We want to see a good, strong business model go out the door first and get some runs on the board and build some distribution. Then we can start working out how we can do things differently, like John said, across multiple channels, not just the ones that we're building.
Brilliant. Moving on to the next question. Explain the 25% commission. So one of the panelists want to know, is that on the wholesale price or the retail with or without WET?
Do you want to grab that one, John? You want to talk from a? Do you want to grab that and talk from a winery's perspective? Might be more appropriate.
I think it's fantastic. Firstly, that from a producer point of view, that you don't have to wait 60 days, end of month, to get paid for wine that you've sent off. So payment comes first, which is great. Less 25% commission that goes to Unovino, which is quite. There's probably a bit of margin for an increase there. It's difficult for me to say that because I sort of shoot myself in the foot, having a foot in both camps. I shoot one foot or the other. It works really well. The drop ship. I mean, we do get access. Producers do get access to customers, to Unovino customers. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's up to Unovino to keep those customers engaged. And I can tell you now, people have multiple orders from Show Block Wines, repeat orders, and they order through the Unovino site. Not one of them has actually not ordered through the Unovino site and come directly to the Show Block Wines platform, which is amazing. I mean, I think that's a testament to the engagement of that number of customers that are engaged.
Do you want to compare also the 25% though against what you would have paid for wholesale, or maybe if you were to drop your price even further and go through a duopoly channel of Coles or Woolies, and where wet tax comes in? Maybe you can just explain that.
Yeah. Well, look, the 25% allows the producer to actually give the customer a really good deal because their margin's not being eroded by the seller. So there's margin in it to actually pass on savings to customers as well. So, yeah.
From a wholesale perspective, we've got some adjustment to still keep on doing with that as we're rolling out to more and different wine bars and restaurants that are buying through the platform. The 25% on the wholesale rate exists now. If you were to go through the platform and shop with a discounted rate, that would match a wholesale rate. Ultimately, that would come out of it. How we adjust that into the future, I think there'll be some changes to happen to get the right landed costs. From a wet point of view, the producer just needs to manage that appropriately with the way they're going to price it and make sure it's all inclusive where they need to, or whatever's being done there. But there's some work to do on that. Ultimately, what we've seen with the pricing for going to a wholesale rate or going into a restaurant or a bar, the producers have all been happy to find a way forward with that, because the difference is they're not just sending it one way and it's not coming back as a sale to them into the future. It's going out with the opportunity to have an ongoing customer from that channel and from that referring partner or that affiliate. And that's where you get some balance. The winery is getting a customer that might get coming back, which they don't get now, or in the restaurant and the bar is getting a new customer sometimes sent to them. And they also get a commission ongoing. So we do offer to the restaurant or the bar a commission as part of that. As we share some of our commission with them as an affiliate channel. So we're trying to get a win-win-win relationship there. But yeah, happy to speak more about that. And if any of the restaurants or bars, I know there's quite a few that come through the OI on this call, really keen to chat about this stuff, because this is the new way forward for us, is to really scale through that process.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Deborah, I hope that answers your question. If you want to follow up, just add another comment into the questions and we can dive into it a little bit more detail. Or like Adam says, we can take it offline and you guys can chat further. Next question. How many individual customers have you had and how many bottles have you sold?
I can tell you if I'm looking at the database, and I've got a copy in front of me right now, so I thought I'd check that when I saw the question come through. We've had 995 separate orders be placed, so nearly 1,000 now. We're not too far away. As Adam said, there's about 26% of people who's ordered repetitively. So that gives you a bit of a feel for how many people have bought more than once, and roughly 1,000, just under 1,000 sales through the system.
I suppose I have to put the hand up and say about $6,000 of those sales are from me, Mike, and for everyone on the line. But one thing I would say is that we eat our own breakfast, so we absolutely, as shareholders and shoppers in the industry, we use Unovino for our own sales.
And we don't get a discount. We don't get a discount on that. Just putting that out there. We buy at the same rate everyone else buys at. That's policy.
Well, there will be shareholder rewards, just so everyone's aware. So you will be paying the discount. That's fine. But yeah, even though that 25% comes out after discount. So if there is a discount, our commission is after discount in most cases, unless we've done a different kind of deal with an operator.
Great. Moving on. So does a winery need to use the Vin Creative software in order to be listed on Unovino? In other words, is this an elaborate acquisition strategy for this other software business? It's just come through.
Well, maybe I can address that. From the point of view of where we are today, the vertical integration, yes, allows transactions from the Unovino platform to drop straight into the pick list for the existing wineries. There's no additional, staff training. There's no additional changes to how their existing processes work. So that was just the quick method to market. We can work with our existing relationships that we have, and we could get producers onboarded very quickly. The long-term strategy, though, is to roll out integrations into Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, and other providers. It's certainly not going to be locked to just Vin Creative. That's absolutely not the case. But there's a place where you start and where it's cost effective, and there's a place where you end. So, is it an acquisition strategy? If a producer wants to be on Unovino right now, sure. At the moment, they would have to use the Vin Creative platform. That is the case today. That's not limiting to Vin Creative to Unovino, because we've got 150 plus wineries who are very keen to be on this platform, and we're gradually onboarding them as they make themselves available and have the additional stock that they want to move through the platform.
Awesome. Anyone else wants to add anything to that point, or shall I move on to the next?
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a question here from Nat. How does the 25% margin compare to what a winery pays for a retailer margin like Dan Murphy?
John,
you want me to answer that one, don't you?
it's a hard one to say because it's obviously always varied depending on what the volumes are putting through. Yeah.
It is difficult to say. It just varies. It varies on what products resellers are looking to stock and how desperate they are to have that product. We all know that there's a slight oversupply in the industry at the moment, but I think that's going to sort itself out in the near future. So the 25% is it's less. It's less than what you would give up for other resellers.
I can say that from wineries that I've spoken to, they would typically say a wholesale margin is 40 to 45%. Typically.
Yeah. I think that's part of our goal is to just. It's a valid strategy to have a retail strategy. Of course, it is. But what you've got to see from that is, and I've seen it in the world of Foods, is we had 3,500 outlets and we had 1 million customers, and how do you get things to cycle around? And we can have a lot more control of that because we had strong marketing, strong communications. But where the customer doesn't come back to you and they keep on buying to that channel, it can be a drain versus what you're trying to otherwise do direct to consumer, have more margin to be able to keep on doing new things and different things and employ people and make the economy go around, rather than just sort of coming off the shelf and someone else fills you up. Like, how do we keep a sustainable approach for people that want to use that? And I think ultimately where we can help a winery, if they're in distribution land, come back through us somehow, or find the product if they're in a restaurant and still be shopping. Again, if there's just ways to close those loops off where we see wines going out the door at pretty low margin, and they're great because they get sold, but they don't come back as direct customers. They don't even come back as winery visits or cellar door visits, certainly not straight away. How can we do that more often? So again, even with the Unovino producers, we would like to see the opportunity for people to go and visit and get benefits as being a member in there as well. So it's trying to build a community around this, which is closing all those loops off. And even from a marketing point of view, with campaigns that we've seen run with individual wineries for Facebook and things like that, or for other campaigns typically, versus what we see in Unovino, the cost per acquisition is typically lower on Unovino, or can be lower on Unovino than what you would pay if you're paying for an open market campaign. Depends on what you've done. So, we feel like it's a pretty good number to start off with. And ultimately, what it looks like into the future can change with how we produce more product ourselves, or we have stronger conversion rate on our marketing, What can we do to help either grow more in our business, but it's going to be in a win-win approach to the winemakers especially.
Fab. Just to continue on from that, Deborah followed up with her original question, just confirming. So 25% on the retail price, but Dan Murphy is 20. But what you're saying is the winery gets the customer details, which I think you kind of wrapped into that answer there. That's correct.
That's correct.
Awesome. Okay, in that case, I will move on to the next one. So is it possible for a winery to continue to use Shopify for their own website sales and use Vin Creative for sales, etc., through Unovino?
Absolutely, 100%.
Perfect. Nice.
It just means the winery will have two operational systems for their ERP fundamentally. So which isn't you can have two tabs open in your browser. It's not that hard. So it's not a massive burden, but at the moment that is the case. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, we might wrap up with one final question, which I'm going to put to you guys actually. So it's been awesome to work with you, and I know community is at the heart of everything you do, which you explained during your presentation as well. How are you going to keep that at the heart of everything as you grow?
Well, I can certainly answer that. I mean, coming from businesses like tourism and tea, where you get to see, you can't avoid it. Like you go down to the shops when I was working in this space in Alice Springs or anywhere in tea, and you would see the person you're trying to help from a marketing perspective. They would literally eyeball you, and if you weren't doing a good job, they would tell you, which was always great fun. But ultimately, we were in it together, and I think that's what the wine industry needs. Is that there needs to have the eyeballs right at you, and we see it every day. From being creative, there's 140 clients that are using the platform, and we get to see them, we get to talk to them, we get to feel what they're feeling. And in Unovino, we see the 25 and more of them over the future. I think that's a testament to the kind of approach we're taking here. And that's our competitive edge. That's the thing that's going to make the difference. We don't necessarily need more places to buy a wine. We need better ways to buy a wine.
Yeah.
And we need better choices for the wine that you're making, and to feel connected to that. So, that's the best way I can answer it. Is it's coming from a cultural space, not just a textbook that we need to follow. So yeah. That's where it comes from for me.
We want to build a community that is connected, and it's a community of growers, producers, wine lovers, that all sorts of supporters, investors, all one community. We want to nurture those relationships and keep that at the heart of it. Let that wheel drive itself. Let that heart beat on its own.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if anyone has any other questions, it's your last moment to do it. But if not, thank you so much to Adam, Mike, and John for such an insightful presentation. And thank you to everyone for joining today's session. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of this video will be sent around to everyone who registered in case you missed out to join the call today. And the expression of interest campaign for Unovino is live for another couple of weeks. So if you haven't already, jump onto the Birchal platform and check out their pitch video and their company profile. The early access offer campaign will be open on the 19th of November. So make sure you express interest into their profile to access that offered period. And in terms of, so you'll be able to access the private period if you express your interest now before it goes open to the public. Thanks again, everybody, for joining, and goodbye.
Thanks, Ellie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, guys.